Imagine a single philosophy powerful enough to guide two men who lived in completely opposite worlds. On one side, a man who owned nothing, born into slavery, whose entire existence was marked by deprivation. On the other side, a man who could rival today's billionaires, living surrounded by gold, influence and luxury. How can the same set of ideas serve both extremes? Is Stoicism simply a way for the poor to accept their condition, or a way for the wealthy to justify their fortune? Or is there something deeper hidden inside it? A truth that could completely transform how we understand money, freedom, and success. This is the Stoic Lighthouse, a channel where ancient wisdom shines through the fog of modern confusion, guiding us toward clarity, resilience, and strength of character. If you want to bring this light into your own life, hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss our next guide. To explore this paradox, we will journey through the lives of three of history's most influential Stoics. Seneca, the advisor to emperors whose immense fortune drew accusations of hypocrisy. Epictetus, the former slave who discovered a kind of wealth no master could ever take away. And Marcus Aurelius, the emperor whose unimaginable power was not a privilege, but a heavy responsibility. Along the way, we will uncover one of the most misunderstood Stoic concepts of all time, a concept that holds the key to understanding why Stoicism works in both abundance and poverty. As we dig deeper, remember the words of Ralph Waldo Emerson: "The only true riches are the riches of the soul." And as Epictetus taught, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. These voices, separated by centuries and cultures, point to the same truth, a truth that challenges everything modern society tells us about success. Get ready, because once you see wealth through Stoic eyes, your definition of success may never be the same again. Number 1. Seneca, the billionaire philosopher under fire. Seneca is one of the most fascinating and controversial figures in Stoic history. He wasn't just a philosopher writing in the quiet of a study. He was a statesman, a playwright, a political advisor to emperors, and one of the wealthiest men in Rome. His fortune, measured in hundreds of millions of sesterces, would place him in the league of today's billionaires. Yet this same man wrote pages upon pages warning against luxury, preaching simplicity, and urging us to find contentment with little. To many, both in his time and ours, that looked like blatant hypocrisy. How could a man who dined off golden plates tell others to despise wealth? But Seneca's defense is not only clever, it's deeply Stoic. He argued that money, like health, is what the Stoics called a preferred indifferent. It isn't good in itself, it isn't evil either. What matters is the relationship you have with it. In his own words, "For the wise man, wealth is a servant. For the fool, it is a master." This means that wealth, in Stoic thinking, is simply a tool. If you can hold it lightly, use it for generosity, and remain ready to lose it without panic, then wealth becomes a stage for practicing virtue. But if you cling to it, fear its loss, or let it corrupt you, then it owns you. Seneca was constantly reminding himself that his fortune should live in his house, but never in his soul. This idea resonates with modern thinkers too. Naval Ravikant, an entrepreneur often linked to Stoic ideas, has said, "Seek wealth, not money or status. Wealth is freedom." For Naval, just like for Seneca, the goal is not luxury for its own sake. It's sovereignty, freedom over your own time, the chance to live by your values without being a slave to someone else's schedule or paycheck. Seneca's life shows us the true Stoic challenge of abundance. It is not to run away from wealth, nor to worship it. It is to master it. To prove day after day that your happiness is anchored not in possessions, but in virtue. And this is what makes Seneca still relevant to us. In a culture obsessed with status, image, and bank balances, he dares us to ask if we really own our wealth, or if our wealth owns us. Number 2, Epictetus, finding freedom in chains. If Seneca shows us how a Stoic can live surrounded by abundance, Epictetus reveals the other side of the coin. Born into slavery in what is now Turkey, he owned nothing. His body, his labor, even his future were the property of another man. By every standard of his time, he was powerless. And yet, from this position of extreme poverty, he discovered a kind of wealth that not even emperors could take away. When stripped of everything external, Epictetus turned inward, finding freedom where it truly resides, in the mastery of one's own mind. Epictetus taught his students that true riches are not found in possessions, but in desires that have been tamed. He reminded them, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. For him, debates about whether wealth was preferable to poverty were almost irrelevant. His life was the experiment itself. Every insult, every command, every act of deprivation became a test ground for philosophy. He discovered that the only thing no master could control was his judgment, his choices, his attitude toward what happened around him. That was his treasure. This radical redefinition of wealth connects Epictetus not only to ancient cynics like Diogenes, who embraced poverty to prove independence, but also to modern voices who describe resilience in the face of chaos. Nassim Nicholas Taleb, for instance, developed the concept of anti-fragility, systems that grow stronger under stress. Epictetus embodied this principle long before it had a name. The more life tried to crush him, the stronger his mind became. Epictetus was not interested in possessions, but in the fortress of the soul. He proved that a man could be chained physically, and yet freer than those who bowed to their own fears and appetites. His life is a challenge to us today, in a culture drowning in consumerism. You may own the latest technology, a closet full of clothes, a home filled with luxuries, but if your peace depends on them, are you truly free? Epictetus forces us to face an uncomfortable truth. Poverty may not be the real prison. Desire is, and the one who masters desire is richer than any king. Number 3. Marcus Aurelius, the weight of imperial gold. If Seneca wrestled with the temptations of wealth and Epictetus thrived in the absence of it, Marcus Aurelius carried perhaps the heaviest burden of all, absolute power. He didn't choose his throne. From a young age, he was groomed to rule, adopted into a lineage that placed the Roman Empire on his shoulders. Unlike Seneca, he could not retreat into the private life of a wealthy philosopher. Unlike Epictetus, he could not step aside and detach from worldly responsibility. Marcus Aurelius had to govern, to fight wars, to administer the vast machinery of Rome. His challenge was not whether to accept poverty or manage fortune. His challenge was to remain virtuous while ruling the richest empire on earth. In his meditations, written not for the public but as personal reminders, Marcus constantly fought against the illusions of power and wealth. He warned himself that the purple robe of the emperor, the applause of the crowds, the marble palaces, all of these were dangerous distractions. For him, the throne was not a prize, it was a post of duty. He urged himself, remember that you are a man, not just an emperor. Take up your station without hesitation, with justice, sincerity, and humility. This mindset reflects what modern leadership expert Jim Collins calls a level 5 leader, someone who combines deep personal humility with fierce professional resolve. Such leaders are rare in any age. Marcus Aurelius, leading armies in harsh conditions, writing philosophical reflections by firelight, embodied this archetype centuries before it had a name. Marcus Aurelius shows us that wealth and power, when inherited rather than chosen, are not luxuries but obligations. They test whether a person will serve themselves or serve others. He saw the treasures of Rome not as his personal property, but as tools to be used for the good of the people. The emperor of the world lived with the awareness that even emperors die, and that all wealth turns to dust. His life forces us to ask a piercing question. What would you do if everything you ever desired, money, fame, influence, was handed to you? Would it corrupt you, or could you carry it with humility as a servant of something greater than yourself? Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the ultimate test of character is not how we endure hardship, but how we handle abundance. Number 4, the key to it all, the misunderstood indifference. How could Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, living in such radically different circumstances, all be faithful to the same philosophy? The answer lies in one of Stoicism's most powerful and misunderstood ideas, the doctrine of indifference. The Stoics divided all of life into 2 categories, true good and true evil. Good was only one thing, virtue. Evil was only one thing, vice. Everything else, health or sickness, fame or obscurity, wealth or poverty, fell into a 3rd category. These were indifferents. The word can sound cold, as if Stoics didn't care about money or health at all, but the nuance is important. Stoics weren't robots. They preferred health to sickness, friends to loneliness, wealth to poverty. That's why they called them preferred indifference. They recognize these things can make life easier, but they refuse to mistake them for the ultimate goal. As John Sellers, a modern scholar of Stoicism, explains, the doctrine of preferred indifference allows Stoics to engage with the world, to pursue health and security without ever confusing them with the highest good, which is virtue. Think of it this way. Life is like archery. You aim at the target because hitting it is obviously better than missing. But the Stoic insists the true goal is not the bullseye, but how you shoot. Do you stand steady? Do you breathe with control? Do you release with focus? That is virtue. Whether the arrow hits the mark depends on many things outside your control: the wind, the bow, the target itself. To tie your happiness to the bullseye is to guarantee frustration, but to tie your happiness to your technique is to remain free, always. This is why Socrates, centuries before the Stoics, could say, "No evil can happen to a good man, either in life or after death." Because loss of money, health, or reputation doesn't touch the soul. The only true loss is corruption of character. Seen this way, the paradox dissolves. Seneca, with wealth, was challenged not to let his fortune define him. Epictetus, in poverty, was challenged to prove that freedom could exist without possessions. Marcus Aurelius, with unimaginable power, was challenged to remain humble and just. Each man faced a different stage, but they played the same role, to live virtuously, no matter what props life handed them. This is the Stoic genius. The indifferents remind us that our worth has nothing to do with the scoreboard of society. It has everything to do with how we play the game. Number 5, the Stoic vaccine against fear, voluntary discomfort. Understanding that wealth and comfort are preferred indifference is one thing. But how do you make this lesson sink deep into your bones so it becomes part of who you are? The Stoics had a practice that feels radical even today: voluntary discomfort. Instead of waiting for life to take away their comfort, they would deliberately strip it away to inoculate themselves against fear and weakness. It was not theory, it was training. Seneca, surrounded by luxury, warned himself never to depend on it. He would spend several days each month wearing rough clothes, eating the simplest food, and sleeping on the ground. He would then ask himself, "Is this what I was so afraid of?" This was his way of proving that poverty was not a monster, but simply another condition in which a person could still live well. According to Seneca, begin to practice poverty, prepare for it. A man who makes friends with poverty is truly rich. This was not punishment, it was freedom training. By lowering the bar of what was enough, everything else felt like abundance. After days of bread and water, even a modest meal felt like a feast. The point was not to hate wealth, but to ensure wealth never owned him. This practice has echoes in other traditions too. The Cynics, like Diogenes, lived with deliberate harshness to harden their independence. The Epicureans practiced simplicity to rediscover joy in life's basics. And today, Stoic-inspired thinkers echo the same wisdom. Psychologist Kevin Vost calls voluntary discomfort a form of stress inoculation, exposing yourself to small, controlled hardships so that real challenges cannot break you. Cold showers, fasting, digital detox, minimalist weekends, outdoor challenges, these are the modern versions of what Seneca did 2,000 years ago. In the most comfortable era of human history, we risk becoming soft, anxious, and fragile. By practicing voluntary discomfort, we strengthen our minds and bodies against fear. The Stoics teach us that comfort is not the enemy. Dependency is. When you can thrive without comfort, then you are finally free to enjoy it without fear. Number 6. True wealth, redefining success the Stoic way. If wealth and poverty are only indifferents, what then is real success? The Stoics force us to flip our definition upside down. True wealth, they insisted, is not something you own, but something you become. It is not measured in dollars or possessions, but in the state of your mind, your character, and your ability to live free. The first treasure of a Stoic is a calm mind, free from the storms of anxiety about the future and regrets of the past. According to Seneca, the greatest poverty is restlessness of the soul, and the greatest wealth is serenity. It is not the man who has little, but the man who craves more, who is poor. The second treasure is unshakable character. To live with courage when fear whispers, with justice when greed tempts, with wisdom when confusion surrounds, and with self-control when pleasure calls. Musonius Rufus, the teacher of Epictetus, emphasized this above all. The possession of virtue is the only thing that guarantees happiness. The third treasure is mastery of time. Seneca reminded us in On the Shortness of Life that money lost can be regained, but time lost is gone forever. In a world where distractions steal our hours, the Stoic insists that using time wisely, on study, reflection, friendship, and meaningful work is the most valuable form of wealth. And the final treasure is inner freedom. To desire less, to enjoy the simple, to be content here and now. Democritus, the pre-Socratic often called the laughing philosopher, put it clearly. Happiness resides not in possessions and not in gold, but in the soul. Modern voices echo the same message. William Burvine, in his work on Stoicism, explains that peace of mind comes not from chasing more, but from practicing negative visualization, imagining loss, so we appreciate what we already have. Tony Robbins calls it the difference between the science of achievement and the art of fulfillment. The Stoics were masters of this art. By their measure, a man with billions in the bank but chained by anxiety is poor. A man with modest means but mastery over himself is wealthy. And this is the most radical Stoic lesson of all. Wealth is not about what you hold in your hands, but about the fortress you build in your soul. We began with a paradox. How could one philosophy serve both a man with nothing and a man with everything? After walking with Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, the answer is clear. Wealth and poverty are not the true story. They are just the scenery. The real drama is always the same. The struggle of the human soul to remain free, unshaken, and virtuous, no matter the circumstances. Seneca showed us that fortune can be a servant if you refuse to let it own you. Epictetus proved that chains cannot bind a free mind. Marcus Aurelius carried the crushing weight of empire with humility and justice. And together, they reveal the secret most of the modern world has forgotten. Our worth is not measured in status, money, or possessions, but in the strength of our character. As Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. This is the wealth that endures, the only treasure that cannot be stolen, cannot be corrupted, cannot be lost with the rise and fall of fortune. To live in virtue is to live in freedom. That is the Stoic answer. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these perspectives speaks the loudest to your own life? Do you find yourself more challenged by Seneca's struggle with abundance, Epictetus's lessons in scarcity, or Marcus Aurelius's burden of power? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your reflection may inspire someone else's journey. And if this video has helped you rethink what true wealth really means, give it a like, share it with a friend who might be trapped in the endless chase for more, and subscribe to our channel so this light keeps guiding you forward. In our next video, we will uncover something extraordinary. How one of the most iconic villains in modern storytelling secretly embodies Stoic principles, and why understanding this hidden connection can change how you see both philosophy and power. You don't want to miss it. Remember, the riches of the world are like salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. The riches of the soul, however, are an inexhaustible spring within you. According to Plato, he who has conquered himself is mightier than he who has conquered the world. See you in the next video.